Misery is a 1990 film directed by Rob Reiner and written by William Goldman based on the Stephen King novel. It covers themes such as entrapment, isolation and dehumanization, but at its heart, does it have undertones of rising fascism? Annie Wilkes is clearly unstable, keeping Paul Sheldon a captive in her home, convincing herself that she is helping him on the road to recovery. America has many pressing issues in the 21st century, and one of them being healthcare and healthcare availability. Annie is clearly medically trained, but this is not the healthcare you truly want. What you truly want seems almost out of reach, blocked by a political party, slowing down the process for universal healthcare. Like the typewriter missing its letters, America is stuck trying to progress with broken parts.
I do believe the winters are getting shorter and shorter every year. People say it has something to do with the ozone layer. What do you think?
I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's a theory.
Annie represents an old America, a stuck-in-her-ways America, God-fearing, science-mistrusting, gun-toting America. She is the healthcare, and she doesn't want to let that change.
I have this gun. Sometimes I think about using it.
Clearly some people should not have access to guns, Annie being one of them, and yet this problem still persists in modern day America. The Second Amendment, thou cannot be changed as it has been written down. You only need to turn on the news on a regular basis to see the problem of gun violence in the United States. Mass shootings upon mass shootings to the point of numbness, and nothing being done about it. Annie likes the finality of things, talks about feeling cheated about a cliffhanger. The gun is a quick solution to a problem she can't understand. The gun is a quick solution for so many, and it leaves so many of us in danger. Book burning goes as far back as the 7th century, but in recent history we are familiar with the Nazi Party burning books from the 1930s onwards. In Misery, Annie literally forces Paul to burn the only copy of his latest book, Paul choosing this path over his life, which was clearly threatened. It's a cultural genocide, and typical of people that have a fascist ideology or are simply stuck in the past. Fascism has been on the rise in many countries around the world, and it's happening again in the USA. Annie Wilkes can't handle something subversive or have the world progress and leave her behind. Her only solution, through her own fear, is to strike a match. And likewise with fascism on the rise, problems are dealt with violence. Riots, hate crimes, lynchings. Annie, just like the rest of them, has to have things her way. Her control over Paul, strapped into the bed. If a person wants something that I don't, then this is my answer. In Annie's eyes, it was Paul who was the problem.
Help me help you.
She's a God-fearing person, of course. There's no way in hell someone like that couldn't have good intentions. The evangelicals prey on the weak and have ideologies that would embarrass the person that started it all.
I asked God about you, and God said, I delivered him unto you so that you may show him the way.
Her way. Of course, now Annie is hearing voices in her head. The evangelicals have that too.
That if Jesus was physically on the earth today, he wouldn't be riding a donkey. Think about that for a minute. He'd be in an airplane preaching the gospel all over the world.
Poisonous and exclusive ideologies can have a destructive nature.
I mean, I think one of the reasons you feel really relaxed in Canada, and I think about moving this, we don't have a really strong narrative about our country. And that's good and bad. I mean, it's hard for us to fight for things there sometimes, like I think because we don't have this strong story. And we don't have a story of having had a revolution and throwing off colonialism.
Right.
I think that's probably kind of bad. But at the same time, you know, a narrative can be harmful. A narrative can make you too sure of yourself. A narrative can tell you that one side's right and the other is wrong, or these people are more and these people are less. The whole idea of a narrative, I think, can be the most important thing in the world in terms of survival, and it can also be the most damaging thing in the world in terms of enabling one to do harm or to negate another's version. So
these are big issues in a big country. Nationalism makes one think of their land and inhabitants as wondrous. and others a danger. Fascism suppresses opposition. Annie is burning books, suppressing ideas. Paul's way is wrong, my way is right. She had an idealised version of who Paul Sheldon was based on his Victorian romance novels, but the real Paul Sheldon was an other to her, an other she wished to suppress. In the end, Paul has to rise to Annie's level, literally going with the only route available to him: violence. Paul, the kind of person familiar with Heinrich Heine's powerful words, those who burn books will in the end burn people. She is killed by a doorstop resembling her pet pig named Misery. The narrative that led to us and them, right and wrong, the nationalism and fascism. The suppression, the gun violence and violence to solve problems, the failing healthcare, all leaves both sides in a state of misery. And if it isn't the failing healthcare or a gun that finishes you off, it's misery that sees you out. Thank you.